Hello and welcome back to Revenge Handler. I'm Mike, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today I have a story for you from the pros. I know you're going to enjoy it. Let's go ahead and jump right in. This story comes to us from Reddit's Pro Revenge, and I have to warn you, the man she asked to give her space was the one person on earth she absolutely could not afford to lose. After you hear this one, I want you to drop a rating in the comments. Out of 10, how good is this revenge? Let's see what everyone thinks. If you're new here, hit subscribe. This channel is built for people who believe that karma always finds its way. And save this channel. Bookmark it, because when the betrayal comes to you, and it will, you'll want to know exactly how to handle it. That's what we're here for. She said the word space. She said it calmly, the way people say it when they've already decided everything and just need the other person to agree. She said she needed room to explore her feelings. She said it might be good for both of them. And the man sitting across from her, the man who had spent 11 years building a life with her, who had moved cities for her, who had quietly, carefully, completely restructured every major decision of his adult life around hers, that man nodded. He did not argue. He did not beg. He went into the bedroom, packed 2 bags, and was gone before midnight. She probably thought she had won something. She had no idea she had just handed him everything he needed. His name was Daniel, 34 years old, software architect, the kind of man who solved problems by thinking 3 moves ahead of everyone else in the room. He had been doing it his whole career. It never occurred to his wife that he would start doing it to her. They had met in their early 20s. The kind of meeting that feels accidental but later looks like fate. She was finishing a business degree. He was 2 years into his first real job, already outpacing colleagues 5 years older than him. They fell together fast. She was magnetic, smart, driven, funny in a way that made a room lean toward her. Daniel was steady, reliable, the kind of man who remembered what you said 3 weeks ago and showed up for it without being asked. They got married at 27, bought a house in a city Daniel had no particular connection to because it was closer to her family and the career opportunity she wanted. He found work there easily. His skills traveled, and he never once resented the move. He wanted her happy. He believed that when the person you love is happy, the life you share reflects that, and for a while, it did. He had no reason to think anything was wrong. That is the thing about a betrayal that builds slowly. It does not announce itself. It edges in under the door. It wears the face of a rough patch, a quiet season, a couple going through something normal. He noticed she was distracted. He assumed work stress. He noticed she was protective of her phone. He assumed she was planning a surprise. He noticed she laughed differently when she talked about a man from her office. Lighter, younger, a little too careful. And even then, he filed away as nothing, because the alternative was something he was not prepared to consider. Not yet. The name she mentioned, just once, casually, the way you mention someone you want to appear not to care about, was Marcus, a colleague, late 30s, newly separated. Daniel remembered the name because Daniel remembered everything. If you have ever trusted someone the way Daniel trusted his wife, completely, without condition, without a safety net, drop a comment and let me know. Rate where you think this is going, out of 10, because the next part of this story lands like a wall. The night she asked for space, they had been sitting in the kitchen after dinner. Nothing had been wrong with the evening, at least not on the surface. She had cooked. They had talked about something ordinary, a friend's engagement, a problem with a pipe under the sink. And then, in the way people say things they have been rehearsing for weeks, she said she had been thinking. She said she felt like she had not had the chance to fully know who she was outside of their relationship. She said she cared about him. She wanted him to know that. But she needed time. She needed room. She needed space to explore what she was feeling. He asked her one question. Just one. He said, "Is there someone else?" She did not answer immediately. That pause, that single beat of silence, told him everything. She said, "I don't know. Maybe. I think I need to find out." She said it like it was a reasonable thing to say to someone you had been married to for 7 years. He looked at her for a long moment. He said, "Okay." Not the okay of a man who has been defeated. The okay of a man who has just received all the information he needs. He stood up, went to the bedroom, packed 2 bags, clothes, laptop, documents, and walked out before she had decided what to say next. The door closed behind him. He did not slam it. He barely made a sound. She texted him 20 minutes later. She said she hadn't meant for it to happen that way. She said she hoped they could talk. She said she just needed a little time and she assumed he would stay in the house. It was both of theirs, and they could figure out together. He read the message. He did not reply. What she did not know, what she could not have known, was that Daniel had spent the last 4 months paying very close attention. He had noticed the pattern. He had documented it quietly, carefully, the way a man who builds software architectures documents a system failure, without emotion, with precision. He had said nothing. He had waited, and now that she had given him the opening, he walked through it with both bags over his shoulder and a plan already forming. Rate this betrayal out of 10 in the comments. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them right now, because what happens next is the part nobody sees coming. The first thing Daniel did was call his lawyer, not a divorce lawyer, not yet a property lawyer, because the house they shared had been purchased with down payment made almost entirely from Daniel's savings. He had documented this at the time, carefully and correctly, on the legal advice of a colleague who worked in finance. The mortgage was in both names. The equity, however, was not evenly distributed on paper. That paperwork had always been filed. It had never mattered before. It mattered now. He did not move into a hotel. He moved into the spare room of a friend from his previous city, a man named Garrett who worked in the same industry and who had quietly offered, 6 weeks earlier, after one honest conversation over a beer, to be there if things fell apart. Daniel had said he hoped it wouldn't come to that. It had. He arrived at Garrett's with 2 bags and a plan in 3 parts. Part 1, financial. He reviewed every joint account, every shared asset, every subscription, every automatic transfer. He did not empty anything. That would have been visible, and visible was not what he wanted to be right now. But he opened a private account in his name alone and began rerouting his salary there immediately. He was not hiding money. He was simply ensuring that his money was no longer in a position to fund someone else's exploration. Part 2, professional. Daniel had been quietly headhunted for a position at a firm in another city for the past 2 months. He had left the conversation open, giving no commitment, because he had still been hoping things at home would shift. They had shifted, just not in the direction his wife had intended. He called the recruiter the next morning. He said he was ready to talk seriously. They met by video call that afternoon. Within 5 days, he had an offer letter in hand. The salary was 40% higher than what he currently made. The city was 1,100 miles away. Part 3, the house. He did not move back into it. He did not make a scene about it. He retained the property lawyer and began the formal process of understanding exactly what his legal position was. What he learned was that his position was considerably stronger than his wife had likely assumed, because she had not paid attention to the details the way he had. She had never needed to. He had always handled the details. Subscribe if you believe the score always gets settled, because the plan he was building was almost invisible from the outside, and it was airtight. She called him 12 days after he left. She had been texting, not urgently, not with panic, but with a measured tone of someone who expected the situation to stay manageable. When he finally picked up, she sounded almost surprised that he answered. She said she wanted to talk. She said she had been thinking. She said she hadn't expected him to just leave like that. He told her he hadn't expected to have a reason to. She said things were complicated. He said he understood. She said she still needed time. He said he was giving her all of it. She did not understand what he meant. That became clear when he told her, calmly and without heat, that he had accepted a position with a new company, that he would be relocating by the end of the following month, and that he had already begun the process of formally separating their assets. The silence on the other end of the phone was extraordinary. It lasted long enough that he would think about it for years afterward. Then she said, "You can't be serious." He said, "I'm always serious." She said she hadn't asked for a divorce. He said, "No, you asked for space. I'm giving you the whole room." The job was everything he had been offered and more. The city was one he had actually wanted to live in for years, a detail she had never asked about, or she had not remembered. He settled quickly. He was that kind of person. Within 3 weeks, he had a furnished apartment, a gym membership, and a social life that was already starting to rebuild itself around people who knew him only as the man he was right now, without the weight of the last few years on him. Marcus, it turned out, did not last. He heard this secondhand from a mutual friend who passed along information without being asked to. Marcus had apparently decided, 6 weeks into whatever it was they were doing, that the situation was more complicated than he wanted. He was not looking for a relationship. He had been newly separated. He had wanted something easier. She had wanted something that turned into something real. It had not. The mutual friend reported that she had reached out to Daniel. He already knew. He had seen the missed calls. He had not returned them. Drop your rating in the comments. Out of 10. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that walking away is sometimes the most devastating thing a person can do. And save this channel, because when your moment comes, you'll already know where to go. The house was sold 8 months after he left. The division of the equity was handled by lawyers calmly, without drama. His documentation from the original purchase was accurate and complete. He did not take more than was fair. He took exactly what was fair, which was more than she had been prepared for. She had assumed the split would be equal. She had not read the original paperwork carefully. That had always been his job. One of the last things he said to his lawyer during the process was that he hoped she found what she was looking for. He meant it without bitterness, which was perhaps the most unsettling part for everyone involved. He did not celebrate. He did not post about it. He did not update anyone with triumphant message or a recap of how cleanly the whole thing had resolved. He simply continued. A new city, a new role, a life that was, month by month, quietly becoming better than anything the old one had offered. He started working on a project he had been putting off for years, a software tool he had designed in his head long, before he had the time or the headspace to build it. By the time the house sale closed, the first version of it was already in testing. He was not thinking about her when he launched it. He was thinking about the next feature. Karma does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it arrives exactly the way Daniel arrived at Garrett's apartment that first night. Quietly with 2 bags, without slamming the door. The woman who asked for space got exactly what she asked for. 1,100 miles of it. A house sale that went the way the paperwork had always said it would. And the realization, probably at some point in the months that followed, that the man she had asked to wait patiently for her decision had already made his own before she had even finished asking the question. He had always been 3 moves ahead. She had just never noticed until he was already gone. Rate this one in the comments. Out of 10. Drop your number below. I want to see what you think. And if someone in your life needs to hear this story today, send it to them right now. Subscribe if you're new here, because this is a channel for people who know that karma always finds its way. And save us. Bookmark this channel, because the day someone gives you a reason to use what you've learned here, you'll want it already in your corner.